Mexico, having a long family history, hearing about your story as well. What led to that trail or that pathway to Mexico?
Well, if you read the books,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get a sense. But the main thing that led to Mexico was to maintain our freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were tricked and told her that we were going to get our freedom if we leave or keep our freedom, not get our freedom. So that's a misnomer. People think that we traded one to get another. We were always free.
Mm-hmm.
So let that first be known.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that when we agreed to leave to maintain that freedom to go to Oklahoma, and when we were in Oklahoma for the 9 years that we were there, we saw that the government was not going to adhere to its promises. So since John Horse being John Horse and the community being the community, we saw the writing on the wall. This isn't going to work. So let's continue to maintain our freedom. And when Wildcat came up with the idea to go to Mexico, it seems feasible. Let's go. Let's continue our freedom. So that's what we did. And we packed up our community, our family, those who wanted to go, those who were able to go, and we left. Now the numbers are, I don't know. People get around this 300 number. I don't know. It's special maybe, but who knows? It could be 300. It could be more or less. It's an okay round number, but the sheer fact that those 300 people agreed to get on the road and go with each other was pivotal, because it could have just been John Horse and Wannah and her kids and his wife. Could have just been them, but it wasn't. The whole community and his family, when you talk about family and extended family, came together.
Yes, ma'am.
And they said, yes, we're going to maintain our freedom. Let's go. And that's how we ended up in Mexico in 1852. So 1849 when we left Oklahoma. 1852 is when we got into Nacimiento, but 1850 when we got actually into Mexico. So once we got into Mexico, we had a little, of course, it's slavery time, and people are still trying to come after us because they, for whatever reason, think that we should be slaves. But we're adamant. We're going to keep our freedom. You're not going to take it from us. And so we maintain that, and dealing with the government, the Mexican government said, we need you to get in a little further into Mexico so we can maintain that border. And that's when we got Nacimiento, granted to live in Nacimiento.
Wow, that's amazing. Oklahoma, you hear about Black Wall Street, growing up, Trail of Tears, and from getting older, like I realized, hold on, these same people could be, indigenous to this very land as well. Do you think that people skip over that part of Black people, so-called Black people, just end up in Tulsa, Oklahoma sometimes?
I think so. Well, one, because for us, the skin tone and you're talking about complexion.
Right.
For us in our community, we don't do color and complexion. We do community and culture. So we're not looking at what your color is, whatnot. It's more, are you a part of our community?
Right.
And that's what we hold on to. So I guess when we got into Oklahoma, it wasn't like, oh, we're Black people in Oklahoma. Our skin tone is Black. No, we're Seminoles in Oklahoma, still maintaining our culture, still maintaining our community. And again, America being America wants to stay on the complexion and the color. But the significance of that, I guess that spirit, I guess you want to say, is it lingers. It's still there. It was there when we were there. That just maintaining that spirit of freedom. I'm free, regardless of my complexion or color that you see. I'm staying on my culture and my community road.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yes.
In school, we would hear stories about Harriet Tubman, of course, Nat Turner barely. But then John Horse, you're talking about somebody who led the largest enslaved revolt, what they try to say, in history. Why do you think John Horse's story is whispered, but other stories are always spoken out loud?
Well, one, because we're successful. Anytime we're successful, anytime any person other than a white person is successful, the story has to be, whispered or deemed down or dumbed down. But because we are, in their minds, black skinned, that, we were successful. They can't have that. You can't have that, that we were successful against you. And then the sheer amount of people. You see, that's the key, is the number of people that went and had maintained their freedom. If it was just John Horse and Wildcat, we wouldn't even be talking today, right? It's the sheer amount of people, that's 300 right. plus people that they deem were to be not free, that's right. but maintain their freedom.
Yeah. How is that, to be deemed not free but still maintain their freedom? That's a contradiction with
right. I think it's comical because one, how dare you to decide whether I'm free or not free when I was already free. I'm already free. Like that to us was a misnomer. That's right. Like, you're not going to come in and change our way of life just because you think you can. And we've proved it. When we're together, we're together. That's right. Seminole Wars 1, 2, and 3. When we're divided, we show that we can still do stuff when we're divided. We ended up in Mexico. We're Texas Indian Scouts. Our history just keeps going going.
That's right. Seminole Wars, the second Seminole War. Is it true that one was ended because of the death of John Horse's wife, or is that untrue?
See, I don't see in documents that could be the pinpoint thing, because again, there's so many moving pieces going on in a war. Can you say that one single event? Is it? I don't know that it can be. And now the scholars may differ, but to us in the family, the war didn't necessarily end. We agreed. We came to an agreement. You gave us a proposition. We thought it over and we agreed. You agreed that if we leave, we'll continue to maintain our freedom and we'll get land. Well, that wasn't what you intended. You told that lie to us. And once we left, you made sure that we won't get our freedom, or you'll try to take our freedom and we won't get land.
That's right.
So us being honorable people, did the right thing in the agreement to adhere to the treaty, so to speak. And then we trusted the government to honor their word. Yeah. And they didn't. Yeah.
As usual. Huh? Yes, ma'am. Reading the stories, doing research, why, when I see white historians mostly, that they refer to Seminoles such as John Horse, your family, as black Seminoles and not just Seminoles? Why is it always this difference being made between black Seminoles and then the regular Seminoles? Why is that always such a thing?
I think it's just because that's how we've been conditioned. You know, we're conditioned that the color is the most important component. And when you see us, even though we have variety of colors, the one thing that when they look at John Horse, if that picture is actually accurate of him, that his skin tone is a darker skin tone. Right. That's why they do it, black. And then now, as time has gone on, we have, got this sense of that black is an empowering thing. So we have to make sure we put that first because, being black is the foundation or the number one word. That's not just white historians. It's black historians as well. And to me, I think there's this agenda, because if I can separate you from the truth, your indigenous roots, then I can justify what I did to you. That's in my opinion. And so as long as I can keep you black, and in America being a slave country, then I can say, oh, well, I didn't have any, loyalties to you. You don't have any rights. You didn't have any rights to the land. When that's, again, a misnomer. Because Seminole, the word itself, is mixed. It's the mixture of the three groups: indigenous, runaway slave, if you speak, but free black people. And see, they say that really small. It's like a little small print. That free black people, right? that little, and they fade it out there. That free part, and
Yes,
I'm like, that's the whole key. These three groups, all same freedom, right? Indigenous is free, free black people's free, and then escaped slaves were what? Seeking freedom.
That's right.
Free.
Yes.
So why do we need or have that I don't know what to call it, to put that black on there or their need?
Yeah.
Is again to separate us from what is truly ours. But we as the community, it's not the color, it's culture and community, and that's what we stick on, that's what we stay on, that's what we'll die on. Culture and community, that's who we are.
That's great. Being free during those times, I could only imagine all the things that John Horse and his people had to go through, your people. How fierce of a warrior was John Horse and also your people as well?
Oh, we were very fierce. Like I said, us maintaining our freedom. We had one skirmish, as we call, when we went to Mexico. The Texas Rangers, everybody knows about them, right? Yeah, you'll hear that.
Baseball team as well. Turn that into.
Right. Yeah. But there's a little known story is when they tried to come get us in the 1800s, 1850s, to get us from Mexico, that they got their butts whipped and, tails sent packing. But the story is not told that way in their history books. The story is told that the Mexican army, came in and there was just too many numbers for them to come get us or they would have gotten us. No. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, we are fierce fighting people now, and if we've proven it. We've proven it in the Seminole Wars. When you thought we just forgot those skills when we went to Oklahoma. No, those skills kept us free when we went to Mexico, and the Mexican government recognizes our skills and put us to work as the first border patrol. And people it today as it's more border patrol on this side, but we were the first border patrol. So, and then when we became scouts in the 1800s, our regiment is known to not lose a man in their history. In the 1870 to 1914, not one person was lost during battle.
Wow.
Now we've had deaths because people, different diseases and whatnot, but no one was lost in battle. And we have 4 Medal of Honor recipients in that group. The largest in one single group, 4.
Wow.
So I think we can prove that we were able to fight.
Hey, it speaks for itself.
Yes,
ma'am. Speaking about fights, battles, and wars, we hear about the Civil War, American Revolution, but not about the Seminole Wars. What occurred during the Seminole Wars? What happened during that time?
Well, a lot of battles happened during that time. Again, you got the Okeechobee battle with Taylor, General Taylor, which became president. Then you got the Waxahachie battlefield, and which is, I think, so overlooked because it was only a 2-hour battle.
Wow.
It's 2 hours. 2 hours in your lifetime.
Wow.
2 hours. And the significance in that was the sheer amount of opposition. It was like maybe 15, again, estimated numbers, 1,500 plus Army soldiers against 200 or less Seminoles, and mostly of those were women and children.
Wow.
And the significance of that is that my grandmother, again, is not Wannah, she was not there. See, in our community, we have lots of grandparents that are in this Seminole history. And my Bowlegs, my Payne grandparents were there. One of my grandmothers was 6 years old at Waxahachie battlefield on the ground with her parents, and her brothers and sisters, were there. And her future husband there as a child at that battle. And when I went there, it's in Fort Jupiter, it's in Jupiter, Florida. I went there this year, January, to the 185th Seminole reunion. It was so amazing because when you go home, so to speak, when you go put your feet where your ancestors' feet were, it's a powerful moment. Powerful moment. And when I sat there and I knew, because I know our history, that my grandparents were there, the goosebumps, are so significant. So I said, no, we got to go back and tell our relatives, our family, come here, experience this, see how, if this 2-hour battle went a different way, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
That's heavy. Yes, ma'am.
I would not be sitting here.
Yes, ma'am. From seeing stories being told in documentaries, whether it could be YouTube, social media, what are some missing links in the story of John Horse, Wannah, and your family as a whole?
I think the missing link is that, one, the indigenous part needs to really be, I guess, combined. Don't overlook it. Just because when you think Indian or you think indigenous or whatever term you want, that it has to be this idea or this photograph. Right. Indigenous is indigenous to the community, regardless of your color. And I think once we say that we're indigenous or we're part of that indigenous group, that somehow we're saying we're not black. But that's not what we're saying. And then when we're in Nacimiento, Mexico, when we're in Mexico, if we're saying you were born in Mexico, somehow I'm not black.
Right.
Like, it's not true. Yeah. So those cultures and those communities that we're a part of needs to be more, talked about, because if you keep just saying black, that's one dimensional, and we're not. We're very layered. We're very complex people and have so many different aspects in our culture that were significant. But if you just lay on to just one part, black, then you're losing everything that to me makes our community and our culture special.
Yes, ma'am. Andrew Jackson, Indian Removal Act, and the laws, all of those things. What factors did those things play in the lives of John Horse and for Wannah as well, and your people?
Well, the significant thing was the loss of property, right? Our loss of property, because one, our freedom in our minds was never an issue. Like, we weren't going to lose it. That we're going to maintain that. Right. But if we had to move, because that's a part of our culture, they've moved in Florida time and time again. It's okay, we can move, but our freedom we were not going to give up. So when we agreed to their terms, and then they did not adhere to their part of the bargain, when we lost our community property, that is the most significant thing. And over time, and in John Horse's own words, again, he's the one speaking for the people, but the sentiment is the same. The people wanted their home, their home life. Just, like anyone, you want to just be able to live in your own home, with your freedom, and do your own life without anyone, trying to come against you. That's all you wanted.
Yes, ma'am.
And we lost that once we moved or removed to Oklahoma. And we found that we regained that when we went to Mexico, because we have the land, we have the community there, that we were, reunited with the land. Yes, but the longing for the loss of Florida lands, our homelands, never went away. Wow. Never went away. And so that was always the sentiment. I want to be back in my homeland of Florida. But that never happened. Never happened for my grandmother. It never happened for John Horse. In anyone in the community, really. You didn't come back. You didn't come back to Florida. And I think that was their main disappointment, that they weren't able to come back to the land.
Wow. You living in Florida right now, what sense of pride are you feeling, if you feel any sense of pride of being back in Florida right now?
Oh, I feel elated because I was brought here. I didn't have any inclination that I would be in Florida. Wow. None whatsoever. I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Wow.
So, okay. And I was not thinking of Florida in any way. But my path has been ordained for me. And I was meant to come here to Florida. And every step in my life brought me here. And that's when I came here, it was, again, you are ordained. And I'm not the only one. My cousins are here. They're Payne family lines. Again, we're here. We've been brought here to Florida because our ancestors want us here. And they want us to continue to understand what has happened in our history. And we are the redemption or reclaiming, so to speak. And that's what I feel like I've done. I have come full circle for Wannah to come back here. And like it gives me goosebumps because like what else can you do to honor the ancestors as to go back to the land where they were and live a great life, right? Like that's what you should do.
Yes, ma'am. The Paynes and the bow legs, what impact have they had on you of being part of that family lineage as well?
It's so funny. They're all equal, I guess you could say, because they all have the same spirit, that same resistance, that same love for freedom, and it's not just them; it's every layer. The Vasquez line, like I said, that's not a Seminole line. My grandfather, I'm not gonna say great because I'll tell you, I'll say grandfather. So he wanted freedom too, but he came as a kid to Mexico. He's a 10-year-old kid coming to Mexico. There's no inclination like a 10-year-old. I'm gonna go get freedom. He didn't have that intention. He was 10 years old, an orphan. And ended up in Mexico because of many different events. And it's a long story, so I won't go into it here. But he ended up uniting or coming with the Seminole tribe there in Nacimiento, marrying into the family there, and having 13 kids who all intermarried with, again, all the Seminole tribe. So when you go to Nacimiento, there's 95% chance that you are a descendant in some way from the Vasquez family. You are related to us.
That's amazing. Yes, man. Growing up, what was life like for John Horse and for Wannah as well, growing up?
Growing up in Florida?
Yes, ma'am.
It was free. You hear the stories about John Horse being a trickster, right? And I think which is so interesting is that they keep this slave connotation. If you buy into that connotation, the slave that they were slave, how can you be trickster? Like you have this constant fear.
He would get in trouble.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So why would he get out here when he knows you're going to get in trouble?
Great observation.
Right. But why would he do that? That makes no sense. And so to me, and again, the family, just the history and feeling the vibes of my family, there was no fear. We didn't have fear because we were free. So it's 1 + 1 = 2, but you're trying to push in and say, no, it's 5. No, the slavery and the threat of slavery or re-enslavement. I love that re-enslavement. How can you be re-enslaved when you were never enslaved?
Yes, ma'am.
But never. So that I think they're in the way I feel it and the way our community is that they were free and they lived a uncomplicated life, just living on the land. Living day to day, building, doing their crops, doing the traditions that we do as indigenous people.
Yes, ma'am. During this time, we have cell phones, technologies everywhere, living on the land. It's crazy now because it's like the average man, if you asked him to create something in the woods, he wouldn't be able to build a home or start a fire, any of those things. How can we get back to reconnecting, if you will, with the land again?
Oh man, I don't know if we'll be able to.
It takes a while.
The technology is hard to put it down. That's a good one. That's a good one. well, for us in our community, it's not as difficult because we haven't left it.
That's good. Yeah.
So because we're still maintaining that. I guess the ones that are on the outer edge, because we're all over the world now, you know. And for me, which is interesting, the growing up in Vegas, there's no
desert.
farms like that. You're not gonna see a farm there.
Yes, ma'am.
But my path, my life has introduced me to a man who is he calls himself a farm boy, and, you know, country boy.
Yes, ma'am.
And his mother, his family line, they plant crops, and I'm looking at them, and it's interesting to see, but me and my, you know, aura, I guess that Vegas upbringing, I'm not getting out